Can we talk about the absolute rampage that Howie Roseman has been on lately? And I'm not just talking about the draft. This started with locking up Devontae Smith, a great move. And then A.J. Brown rightfully comes calling asking for a little bit of a raise. Devontae Smith shouldn't be making more than A.J. Brown. And listen, the Eagles could have dragged this out, said, nope, there's still years on your contract, like tough luck, kick rocks. But no, why introduce a distraction, a problem? You want everybody on the same page. So what does Howie Roseman do? He takes care of A.J. Brown, a guy who has taken care of them since they traded a first round pick for him, what, now 3 years ago? But it doesn't just stop there. They then signed Mekhi Becton, and this was just a beautiful signing. I was very adamant that the Eagles were going to draft an offensive tackle to one day replace Lane Johnson. It's what they had done with Jason Kelsey, Jason Peters. They just always have guys up and coming in the trenches, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side. Look, they drafted Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter when they still had Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, guys like that on the roster. It's why the Eagles are so good. They just replace and replenish constantly on the offensive and defensive line. The Mekhi Becton, this guy is still crazy young, crazy talented, and oh yeah, crazy huge. Something that he has in common with the rest of the Eagles' offensive line. All of them are over 330 pounds. It's ridiculous. Mekhi Becton, if you can motivate him and keep his weight under control, if you can keep him on the field, because health has been a big problem with him, you have something here. This guy was taken before Tristan Wirfs. People believe in him. Andrew Thomas, I think, might have been the only tackle taken ahead of him, maybe Jedrick Willis. But Mekhi Becton, there's still something there. And the problem with players like this, where it just hasn't panned out, if they go to a team that has a plan and has an established culture, which the Eagles do, not because of Nick Sirianni, but because of Howie Roseman and the players that he has brought in, there might be something here. If Lane Johnson goes down, Jordan Mailata goes down, you have another option. But this might be a long-term signing. It's just a one-year deal as of right now. But don't be surprised if the Eagles kind of keep Mekhi Becton. Lane Johnson might be done after this year. He might be done in another couple years. They just keep Mekhi Becton kind of under wraps and use him as a swing tackle. All of a sudden, he becomes a perennial Pro Bowler replacing Lane Johnson. The draft was also spectacular for the Eagles. They were talking about trading up, and I don't know if they were going to trade up for Quinyon Mitchell, but if they did, no one would have really blinked an eye. Quinyon, super tall, runs a sub 4.4, the number one corner in this draft without question. So no one would have really questioned the Eagles need some help in the secondary at both the corner and the safety position. Bringing in Quinyon Mitchell would help shore that up. James Bradbury, old and coming off of a pretty down year. Darius Slay, still elite, but how long can you expect that? Avonte Maddox coming back from an injury. You don't know what you have in Kelee Ringo. And then at the safety position, you bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but Reed Blankenship, kind of a solid player. Don't really know how high his potential is. Quinyon Mitchell shored that up. But oh wait, the guy who I thought they might be taking with that first round pick, Cooper DeJean, he falls to them in the second round. Classic Eagles move. Their secondary is shored up for the long-term future now. Both of these guys, tremendous athletes. Cooper DeJean, I still think he can play boundary corner. And guess what? If he can't, he's going to be a heck of a nickel. He's going to be a heck of a safety. Truly can play all five positions in the defensive backfield. Kind of similar to Brian Branch, another guy that I was super high on last year. The Eagles might be my pick in the NFC right now. Like, this is just tremendous. And I'm not even a huge Jalen Hurts guy, but Howie Roseman just has me believing in Philly. It didn't stop there, though. They drafted a third-round edge rusher named Jalix Hunt, who I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say he's the next coming of, I was going to say Jesus Christ, but obviously he's not the next coming of Jesus Christ. He's not the next Brandon Graham. But guess what? He gets to learn behind Brandon Graham. Supposedly the kid has some talent. Let him get adapted to the NFL landscape. He's coming from a lower level of competition. Houston Christian may be a school, no pun intended with the Jesus Christ reference, but solid pick. Will Shipley, arguably the running back one of this class. He goes all the way at pick 127. This is a guy who can catch out of the backfield and runs a sub 4.4. I get it. There was no first round prospect, but him, Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, Jonathan Brooks, there were some guys in this class, and I mentioned that in a video pre-draft. Will Shipley, though, coming into a backfield that has Saquon Barkley, obviously, as the bell cow, maybe they can kind of take some pressure off of Saquon early on. You do have Kenneth Gainwell, but listen, Will Shipley just helps them get that much better. Another player similar to Cooper DeJean, where it just he feels like an Eagles player, and it was painful to watch, but also it was not shocking to see this guy just fall into Howie Roseman's lap. Oh yeah, and that guy right there, that's Jeremiah Trotter Jr., a guy who I thought was a day 2 pick, but I completely misevaluated this linebacker class because Peyton Wilson was my linebacker 1, and I'm still not convinced that I was wrong about either one of these guys. Jeremiah Trotter hopefully can solve the Eagles' long-term problem of not having an off-ball linebacker really since the Michael Kendricks days. It was Michael Kendricks and Jordan Hicks, if you remember that. That was like the early stages of the Carson Wentz era. Jeremiah Trotter's dad, he's a legacy player. Jeremiah Trotter Sr. was a great Eagles linebacker. I think he's in the Team Hall of Fame. The Eagles actually franchise tagged him a couple times, if I'm not mistaken. But listen, they don't need him right away. I think that he could be a decent 2-down linebacker right off the bat. But you signed Devin White, who has an immense talent. Obviously, he's kind of fallen off a cliff since that Super Bowl run, but there's some talent there. Nolan Smith, he's kind of that do-it-all edge rusher, off-ball linebacker. They have him. Nakobe Dean is still there. There are other options where he doesn't have to produce right away, but also I think it was like a late 5th, early 6th round pick. Why not? Take a flyer on him. Legacy players have a tendency of, at the very least, not being awful. They might not live up to expectations, but they're not going to be bad. That's why I'm not mad at the Tenrique Owens signing by the Niners, obviously the son of Terrell Owens. Brendan Rice going in the 7th round to the Chargers, I think, can be a steal. Frank Gore Jr. signing with the Bills as an undrafted free agent, that's ridiculous. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on the podcast, but legacy players pan out. And Howie Roseman is having an excellent April. And knowing the Eagles, they're probably not done yet. There's going to be probably at least one other addition to this team that just makes us just smile in awe of the great GM that Howie Roseman is.